here at Minnehaha United Methodist Church. And just a few rules, not rules for the road, helpful words before we start. So you may have noticed seating is tight. Those of you in front, if you haven't noticed that already, just look behind you. Those of you who need seats, there are a couple up here, a couple there, a couple there, there are a couple over there. So if you need to sit down someplace, there are probably a few places here and there you can sit. And otherwise, you're welcome to also stand around the edges. We also know a number of you are joining us online, so you all are in charge of your own seating, thank goodness. It's also hot in here. So one room in the building we don't have air conditioned. Smart on our part, right? So please feel free to fan yourself. If you need to get up and take a break, that's perfectly fine. The spaces out there will now cool off now that you're all in here, and this will warm up. Also, just a couple other groups that are in the building as well that you may encounter as you walk around the building or when we are done. The Federation for the Blind is having their annual picnic in our lawn. So if it is raining at noon, we are all going to converge in the same place at the same time. They're going to be coming in and going downstairs. You're going to be coming out of the sanctuary. Just allow them some space so they can find their way. We are also an emergency Red Cross shelter this weekend and probably into the next week for those families that were in the apartment fire just south of downtown earlier this week. So you may also encounter them. They are mainly on the third floor, however. So, one other thing. You have a blank page in your bulletins. That is not a mistake on our part. You will be using that blank page. So be sure you have one. And there are more bulletins at the back, yes? I'm looking at the people at the back. There are more bulletins back there if you need them. And you'll be writing on that blank page, and there should be pencils and pens kind of near you, around you. If you brought your own, that will be very helpful. You will probably need to do some sharing. All right. We have gathered here to celebrate the life and mourn the death of Brad Hanson. Some of us come in faith in God. Some come in faith in the natural world. Some come not sure what we believe. But we all come together in grief, acknowledging our human loss. In this time of remembering, may we find grace, comfort, and peace. Bradley Allen Hanson was born on October 17th, 1968 in Coon Rapids to David and Judy Hanson. He joined his older siblings, Debbie and Jeff. He grew up in Champlin, graduating from Anoka High School in 1987. After high school, he attended community college, transferring to Mankato State 2 years later and graduating from there in 1991. He made many good friends while at Mankato, as well as finding the major of his dreams, open studies. Perfect. While at community college, he began working in a group home, the beginning of a life dedicated to social work. After graduating from Mankato State, he worked for the Committee Against Domestic Abuse, developing programs for men and adolescents who batter, then moved to the Twin Cities in 1995 to work for Freeport West, and then for the Domestic Abuse Project. After DAP, he worked for the Family and Children's Services, and then Fairview University Medical Center, each time focusing on adolescents, children, and working with men to stop domestic violence. It's a lot less linear than it sounds, because while he was at Fairview, he was still connecting at DAP, which is how he met Kate Johnson. They met in 2002 and began dating in 2004, and they were married on June 23rd, 2007. Oh, and he went to Augsburg during this time to get his master's in social work in 2001, and then became an adjunct instructor there in the MSW program, which he did alongside all of his other things. He was a psychotherapist for Trust. He worked with Southside Family Nurturing Center, and he also got his dream job in 2010 at the Loring Nicollet Alternative School. I mention all of his jobs because they were also his relationships. He made connections everywhere he worked, and he maintained those connections beyond the bounds of the workplace. Many of you are here today from any number of those places where he worked because you first met Brad by working with him. Speaking of relationships, Brad loved being a husband, and he really loved being a father. Henry was born in 2008, and Molly in 2012. He loved everything about being a dad. And one of his biggest regrets, as he realized he would not survive this cancer, is that he would not be there with you as you grew up, became young adults, and lived your own lives. Cancer entered into Brad's life entirely too early. By late 2023, it was clear that he may not have beaten it as everyone had hoped. Liver bile duct cancer is a tenacious thing, and it claimed Brad's life on August 1st, 2024. Brad is preceded in death by both of his parents. He is survived by his spouse of 17 years, Kate Johnson, his children, Henry and Molly, his sister Debbie and Jay Hanson, his brother Jeff and Karen Hanson, and a wide circle of extended family and friends. That is entirely insufficient summary of Brad's life, right? I didn't even mention the fishing. There are so many stories, and you have been sending them to him in cards and notes and emails and pictures, filling out that not even skeletal representation of his life. You'll have a chance to fill in a little bit more with those pieces of paper in a bit, but know that you hold all of those memories, all of those visions, all of those times in your hearts and in your bodies. Our reading this morning comes from a poem by Nancy Wood. It's called "A Long Time I Have Lived with You." A long time I have lived with you, and now we must be going, separately to be together. Perhaps I shall be the wind to blur your smooth waters so that you do not see your face too much. Perhaps I shall be the star to guide your uncertain wings so that you have direction in the night. Perhaps I shall be the fire to separate your thoughts so that you do not give up. Perhaps I shall be the rain to open up the earth so that your seed may fall. Perhaps I shall be the snow to let your blossoms sleep so that you may bloom in spring. Perhaps I shall be the stream to play a song on the rock so that you are not alone. Perhaps I shall be a new mountain so that you always have a home. I invite Jeff Cook to come up and say a few words. Jeff has known Brad a long time, and you will hear more about that.
First time we met was fall of '89, my first days at Mankato State. With his Nordic surfer dude vibe, he offered a beer and with a stiff handshake said, "Brad Hanson." Our first fishing trip was that spring. We found ourselves looking for a fishing spot walking through Minneopa State Park, where, many years later, some of us here today joined Melody and I for a wedding where Brad was one of our best men. Sometimes things didn't go so well on our fishing trips. Brad's playful enthusiasm quickly turned hilarious adventure turned mishap into hilarious adventure. When freezing 40-mile-an-hour October winds turned our heavily frosted Lake Vermilion fishing dock into a skating rink, that's not inconvenient. That's just a better story to tell at Tuesday night darts. Oh, what's that, Brad? Oh, tie this frozen length of rope around our legs. The wind couldn't possibly take us both across this fishing dock. Now it's snowing? Perfect. I will miss those times. On that first fishing trip, though, with poles in hand, we were both regretting the enthusiastic decision to take a shortcut and bushwhack our way through Minneopa on our way down to the Minnesota riverbank. It already wasn't an easy hike when we hit a mud flat. There was a brief discussion, as I remember it. How are we going to get down there with all this mud in the way? When I hear, I'm just going to go for it. And 2 not-so-nimble strides later, Brad was up to his hindquarters in foul-smelling mud. I think he lost a shoe in that mud somewhere, and maybe a little pride. I'm not sure if we caught any catfish. I don't remember. But what he did find is a phrase, and he lived by it. For example, when Brad told me he was going to marry Kate, he said, I'm just going to go for it. Man, Brad would always say he married up when he married Kate. Everyone who knew Brad knew and knows how much he adores you, Kate. Molly and Henry, he was always bragging about you. With the hilarity was his kindness. Brad gained by giving. A real family guy. Therapist, teacher, coach, mentor, and the best of friends. Brad loved a good run-in with somebody, whether it was a speech and debate geek from 30 years ago or standing in line with the Vikings wide receiver Chris Carter at Cub Foods. Whenever I hadn't seen Brad in a little bit, maybe we're going on a fishing trip or watching the Vikings in the garage, the first thing he told me about was all the run-ins he had with folks lately. Brad loved a good run-in because he loved his community. He loved all of you. Will you help me honor this sweet man? He was so good at letting people know that they were loved. I don't think I ever saw him eat a Valentine's conversation heart without first looking at someone in the eye, reading it and saying, Jeff, you're nice. I'd like to show our love for him like he did for us. I'll read the heart, and you repeat it, okay? Brad, you're sweet. Join me. Brad, you're sweet. Brad, you rock. Brad, I like you. Brad, you are loved. Brad, it was time to pull up anchor. It's been a little rough down here since we heard the news. Here's a couple of lyrics from Carsey Blanton's song, Fishing with You. Tonight in heaven, it must be nice. They're all eating peaches in paradise. All them angels lined up in a queue just to go fishing with you.
Thank you, Jeff. There is also a slideshow that the family has put together, so we invite you to watch that now.
Everybody is wondering what and where they all came from. Everybody is worrying about where they're gonna go when the whole thing's done. But no one knows for certain, and so it's all the same to me. I think I'll just let the mystery be. Some say once gone, you're gone forever, and some say you're gonna come back. Some say you rest in the arms of the Savior if in sinful ways you lack. Some say that they're coming back in a garden, bunch of carrots and little sweet peas. I think I'll just let the mystery be. Everybody is wondering what and where they all came from. Everybody is worried about where they're gonna go when the whole thing's done. But no one knows for certain, and so it's all the same to me. I think I'll just let the mystery be. Some say they're going to a place called glory, and I ain't saying it ain't a fact. But I've heard that I'm on the road to purgatory, and I don't like the sound of that. Well, I believe in love and to live my life accordingly. But I choose to let the mystery be. Everybody is wondering what and where they all came from. Everybody is worried about where they're gonna go when the whole thing's done. But no one knows for certain, and so it's all the same to me. I think I'll just let the mystery be. I think I'll just let the mystery be.
All right, it's time for those pieces of paper. Brad repurposed things, including this, which is going to be repurposed today for a repository of your words. Now I know, a lot of you have already written stories and sent stories and written cards and all of that, so we're not expecting a novella, just words that you would put on a page, adjectives, adverbs, to describe Brad and what he meant to you. So we'll have some music playing while you do that. Go ahead and write those down on that piece of paper, and then you're gonna bring them up here. And I realize it is really crowded, so you might commission one person near you to take a bunch of them up, or you may wanna bring your own up, in which case do that. We'll figure it out. So you're gonna come up and you're gonna put them in here. Nobody's going to read them. So they're just your words about Brad to Brad. All right? So we'll give you a couple minutes to do that, and then whenever it is that you have a paper that you want to bring up, you just bring it up. have a special rod and reel that I use when I go to the Boundary Waters, something that I can easily carry with me, and if I happen to drop it into the bottom of a lake, I wouldn't be horribly sad that it was gone. And that reel has its issues. Sometimes when I go to make a cast, it just catches partway out. And while I was aiming all the way over there, my line only gets to there. And it kind of makes a sound as it does that, and then I have to reel it back in. Brad didn't get a full cast. He lived life fully, but he didn't get a full life. And while I always get to cast again, Brad doesn't get that chance either. But this truck sitting up here with all of your pieces of paper in it are a testament to how he actually does get a bit more life by living in each and every one of us, because there is a piece of Brad in each and every one of you. Molly and Henry, I know that he was so sad that he would not always be there for you. But there is a piece of him in each of you, and that's for good and for bad, as it goes with parents. I remember when I got done with college and I was in my first apartment and I found myself with my hand on the light switch. Is anybody using the light in this room? You can turn it off if you know. Oh, I had morphed into my father. And my dad is also a bit of a keeper. Recently, 13 trucks had to show up at the house to clear out all of the stuff. So when I purge my basement every 5 years, it is because there's a piece of my dad in me. And there is a bit of your dad in you. And you will do things like him or not like him, but there is that piece of him that will always be in you. We are who we are because of Brad, me included. He set examples that are both good and bad. So sometimes Brad was a cautionary tale. And sometimes he inspired you all to be the best that you are. And there is a piece of him that will continue to live in each of us for as long as we live. And then that will influence somebody else. And on it goes. Brad was not sure about God, if there was one, what he thought about that. And he wasn't so sure about church. The boat was his sanctuary, he said. He saw something bigger than himself, though, something beautiful in the natural world. And he understood something bigger than himself, something beautiful in the connections that happen between people. I have to say that that's true for me as well. I also see God, the word I put to it, in nature and in relationships. And if Brad wasn't so sure about the church, I think that's more the church's fault than Brad's. So I want to be clear that what I say next is what I believe. And it's about what I believe, not so much about what Brad did or did not believe. Because I'm really not so worried about Brad's doubts or questions or lack of traditional faith. I'm not even worried that he made up a "Fishing is Awesome" song to the tune of "Jesus Loves Me." I mean, really, how can you go wrong with that? I'm not worried about any of those things because I believe in a God who had faith in Brad. I believe that Brad is with God in whatever that existence looks like beyond this life. I don't know what that looks like exactly. I don't even know what that looks like a little bit. But I believe that that's where Brad is. It could involve fishing and boats. Maybe it's a place of storytelling and joke making. Maybe it's a workshop room a day or a sports team that always wins. I don't know. But I am confident that that is where Brad is being held. He is not he is now whole. He's not limited anymore by cancer or any of the things that put limits on our daily existence. He is fully loved, and he is fully included in whatever is beyond this. Because I think that's the kind of God I believe in, the kind of God who includes Brad with all of his questions and doubts and funny stories. And I believe in a God who includes all of us. If the church has failed you as well, I am sorry. If there is some other place that fills your soul, I am grateful. Beyond all of it, I believe that in God includes all of you. Each of you is wonderful and beautiful in God's eyes. And on this day, when our hearts are filled with sorrow, I believe that God sits among us, holding us, providing tissues for all that is not fair in this world. May you find your memories of Brad to be a blessing. May you remember the good times as well as the hard times. May your connections to one another prove to be strong and a place of comfort and hope. And may you know yourselves as beloved. Amen. All right, we're going to sing just a little bit. So we're going to sing Go Now in Peace. And so here's how this is going to work. Kate, who is a stronger singer than I am, has recorded herself singing, which was wise. First of all, you don't want me singing, and secondly, you don't need to do this right now, so I'm glad you did it. So we're going to play the recording of Kate singing Go Now in Peace. You're going to figure it out really quickly if you don't already know the tune. It's pretty simple, and you have words right there in your bulletin. And then I'm going to come down here, and I'm going to sing it with you, and we're going to sing it a few times. And then I will close us when it's our last time to sing Go Now in Peace. All right? All right, so we're going to hear it through. You're going to hear Kate sing it once, join in on the second time. We're going to fade out that recording, and you all just keep singing.
Go now in peace, go now in peace. May the spirit of love surround you everywhere, everywhere you may go. Go now in peace, go now in peace. May the spirit of love surround you everywhere, everywhere you may go.
As we go from this place, a couple instructions. There is lunch waiting for you all at Town Hall Lanes. The address is in your bulletin. They will open their doors at noon, so feel free to have little conversations as you head yourselves over there. Just know that the picnic in our side yard is for the National Federation of the Blind. And that weaving that was in the narthex area, for those of you who didn't get to see that, there's a weaving. We're inviting you all to participate in making that. That is also going to be at Town Hall Lane. So if you didn't get a chance to add your piece of fabric to that, you can do that over there. You can even maybe do it here before it gets taken down and heads over there. One of Brad's favorite sayings was, "We're all just walking each other home," which seems an apt conclusion. We are all just walking each other home. And so I trust you to walk each other home, to continue to walk Kate and Molly and Henry home, to remind them of the stories, to remind one another of the stories, and to live out that spirit of Brad that is in all of you. Let us walk one another